الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدًا عبده ورسوله صفيه وخليله، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الغمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين، فاجزه اللهم عنا خير الجزاء وابلغنا مأمنه. عباد الله، يقول الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم التنزيل بعد نعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون. صدق الله العظيم. My dear brothers and sisters, we are in this second stretch of Ramadan, and to contextualize this ayah, I want to take you to the history of the month of Ramadan with respect to Quran. The month of Ramadan is mentioned only once in Surah Al-Baqarah. And if you look at the context of this ayah, this ayah and the preceding ayat where the month of Ramadan is mentioned, it's a progression that started at an much earlier in the surah. And that started with even before the creation of Adam alayhi salam. Adam alayhi salam was given a place called Al-Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Al-Jannah, and when He mentions Al-Jannah, this is the place where we as believers long to go back to. And why do I say to go back to? Because this is the place where our father and mother came from. And Quran describes it as أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْوَارِثُونَ, talking about the people of Jannah. He talks about the people of Jannah as they are the warithun, they are the inheritors. الَّذِينَ يَرِثُونَ الْفِرْدَوْسَ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. Those people who will inherit Jannah, in it they will remain forever. Now think about inheritance. When we talk about inheritance, what does that mean? So when I say, you may get some wealth from your family as an inheritance, but you didn't have to work for it. You may get a family house, money, wealth. It could be anything. It could be a car. It could be whatever was passed down to you from a family perspective, because you were part of that family. But in the case of Jannah, there's a slight difference. There is wealth in this dunya that we own and we earn, for which we have to work hard. But there's inheritance in this world where sometimes we don't have to do anything for that. And you get it because of your lineage, because of your family. But in the case of Jannah, it's a bit of both. In the case of Jannah, you are having to work for it, and you're also what created for that Jannah to begin with. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in another famous hadith, the Prophet says, mentions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for every soul that He has created, He has created a house in Al-Firdaus Al-A'la for every single soul. And that shows you the hope of Allah for every single soul. So think about it this way. Even for Fir'aun and Abu Jahl, there was a house in Al-Firdaus Al-A'la that was made for them, which they will not be able to occupy because of their deeds and because of what they have done. So you're destined for this amazing, amazing place, but we may be not taking advantage of that opportunity. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put Adam alayhi salam in Jannah, what does He say? He said, Uskun anta wa zawjuka al-Jannah. And He uses the word al-Jannah. When the al-ta'rif, which is in the Arabic language, is called, when you put al-masjid, al-bayt, for example, right? You say, you add that al in front of something, that becomes it's a known place. It's ma'ruf, a place that's really known by everyone. It is the Jannah, the house, the masjid. When we say that, He says, "Uskun anta wa zawjuka al-Jannah," and وَكُلَا مِنْهَا حَيْثُ شِئْتُمَا رَغَدًا وَلَا تَقْرَبَا هَذِهِ الشَّجَرَةِ. The famous story. You all know the story. Eat from its fruits. Go anywhere you want. Just don't go near the tree. And then, what are some of the other perks of Jannah? Some of the other perks of Jannah, yes, you have the rivers, the honey, the milk, the trees, the gardens, everything. But on top of all of that, what was the other amazing attribute, the other amazing feature of Jannah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would speak to Adam alayhi salam directly in Jannah. His closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He would directly communicate. And so that was something that Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam enjoyed in Jannah, in addition to all the other perks. Now, fast forward, and Adam alayhi salam makes this mistake. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this mistake as in فَأَزَلَّهُمَ الشَّيْطَانِ. And Shaitan, Iblis, made them make a slip. They made them slip, essentially. And it's in the contrary, it's completely opposite to the common notion among Christians that human beings and Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam made the original sin. The concept of the original sin that you hear about sometimes, that notion does not exist in Islam. In Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described that event, فَأَزَلَّهُمَ الشَّيْطَانِ. The shaitan made them slip. And they ate from the tree. And then as a result of that, what happens? Now, the other common notion that is among Christians, that this, as a result of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would punish both Adam and Hawa alayhi salam, and He would send them to this world, to this dunya. But if you study Quran very closely, and you look at the ayat, the starting, and that's really not the notion of Quran. Quran doesn't talk about this event as a punishment. The coming of Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam to this world is not considered a punishment. Because why do I say that? If you read the ayat, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. Now, long before Adam alayhi salam and his spirit, his ruh was even created, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make an announcement to the angels. You've heard the same famous story. In the very beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, He says, I am going to make a creation and depute that creation in this world. And then the famous dialogue after that happened with the angels, who questioned Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, said, why are you doing this? And this creation is going to create a lot of havoc, whatever. You've heard that. So the point of it is, this coming to this world was already pre-planned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The announcement was already made. If the execution has happened at that turn of moment. When Adam alayhi salam made that slip, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided, now you and your wife and Iblis will go to this earth. And you will go to this earth, this dunya. And look at the word of dunya. Dunya comes from the word adna, or the lowest of the low. So Adam alayhi salam used to live at the highest of the high point, in Jannat al-A'la, right? عند سدرة المنتهى عندها جنة المأوى. Quran describes it, that this place and in other places, that Jannah is very close to the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he was in the literally company of Allah. He was talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly, but now when he was sent down to this earth, he lost that closeness. He lost that nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He lost the ability to communicate with Allah directly. Allah would tell him, now I will talk to you through revelation. So, if you think about that, that feels like a lot of humiliation from Adam's perspective. Then the other notion, that is the Islamic notion, because with respect to Islam, the Prophet ﷺ says, كُلُّ مَوْلُودٍ يُولَدُ عَلَى الْفِطْرَةِ. Every son of Adam, every creation of man, he is born on the predisposed notion, the fitrah, that fitrah that has been endowed into the human being for their guidance. Because you can say, my heart doesn't. I don't think this is a good thing. I don't think killing a person or lying or doing something like this is a good thing. Where does that come from? Where does those set of various universal values come from? That comes from the fitrah of human beings. Human beings don't want other human beings to see in pain, for example. You are ready to help out others if you see them in difficulty. So that is our notion, and it's contrary to the notion of the original sin and the fact that human beings have been sent to this world, to this earth as a punishment. Now, there are a few more concepts that I think is important to understand for us. This world is not a punishment. Why do I say that? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, describing this world, وَجَعَلْنَا لَكُمْ فِيهَا مَعَايِشْ. قَلِيلًا مَا تَشْكُرُونَ. We have made in this world a lot of beautiful things for you. And it's apparent. When you look at this world, it's very apparent. The food that we eat, why as human beings, the kind of food you eat, it's so beautiful, it's so tasty. It didn't have to be beautiful and tasty. You know, look at the animals. They can eat from anything. They can eat from the trees. I mean, all you need is nourishment. And that nourishment could have come from any source. From grass, from leaves, from trees, from, meat, animal meat, or anything, for example, for that matter. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this world and this life and this world as, in this world are signs. They've been the trees, the flowers, the food. Everywhere you look around, there are signs that kind of indicate to what will be in Jannah. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would give these beautiful signs, because if you didn't know, if Allah would describe Jannah and say there will be such a long, for example, the shade of a tree would be 700 years long. Well, if you talk about a tree, if you talk about a river, if you talk about honey, if you talk about milk, if you talk about the flesh of a bird, for example, how would you relate to that if you have not seen it here in this world? Now, obviously, about Jannah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فِيهَا مَا لَا عَيْنٌ رَأَتْ وَلَا أُذُنٌ سَمِعَتْ وَلَا خَطَرَ عَلَى قَلْبِ بَشَرٍ. In it will be things that no human eye has ever seen, no human ears have heard, and it hasn't even dawned on you. We cannot even think about what Jannah is. And according to many narrations, what they say is this entire description that we have for Jannah is a matter of fact, is the starting. It is the appetizer. When a believer would enter Jannah, all these descriptions of Jannah are really about what is going to be given at the beginning, and that's where it starts. So, regardless, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would create and would describe Jannah in these very beautiful, beautiful ways. Now, Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam, when they lived in Jannah, what were the other attributes of that? They would not get sick. They would not get old. They would not get sorry. There would be no fear. Nothing goes wrong. You don't age. On the contrary, what happens in this world? We get sick, we get old, we age, we have so many challenges, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does say this. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. We have, human beings are going to be drawn in toil and labor. Essentially, they are going to endure. Every one of us is going through challenges in life. Every one of us have difficulties that they are really trying to get through. So the struggles of this world are known to everyone. So Adam alayhi salam, he comes in from 100 to a 0, if you think about it. I mean, he's completely changed places. The environment. I mean, think about it. He would come from Jannah to this world. At that time, when the beginning of humanity at this time, imagine what was the situation of people. People were living in caves. Think of the images of cavemen. What kind of circumstances they were living in. And I can imagine that he was feeling very down. Feeling, oh my God, I was in heaven. Now I'm in dunya. This is really depressing. But look at the ayat of Quran. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says? In Surah Al-Baqarah, in that story of creation, in those ayat, which starts from وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً, and the ayat end on فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَكَ قُلْ اهْبِطُوا مِنْهَا جَمِيعًا. Allah would tell Adam, all of you go down and live in this earth. And this is not for Adam. Even Iblis was kicked out of Jannah. Obviously, he was kicked out because of his attitude. And Allah would say to Adam alayhi salam, "Ihbitu minha jami'an," all of you go down, فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُمْ. This is the point that's really you need to pay attention to. فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُمْ مِنِّي هُدًى. And whenever guidance is going to come to you, فَمَنْ تَبِعَ هُدَايَ, and whosoever is going to follow my guidance, فَمَنْ تَبِعَ هُدَايَ فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Then they will have no fear and no sorrow. And that is the connection back to Jannah. What is that place which does not have khawf and huzn? What is the place that does not have fear and sorrow and sadness? That is Jannah. And that is the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying basically, you and your children. And this continued throughout the story of human beings. Humanity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would continue to send His guidance. It was so many prophets that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, many of them are not even mentioned in Quran. But to every nation, Allah would continue to send His guidance. Because His plan has always been for this human being to be able to be successful and come back to Him. And when eventually this climax happened, in this history, the climax happened when the Prophet ﷺ was given this final miracle of Quran, this final guidance for mankind that came. And in describing it, the Prophet says, هُوَ حَبْلُ اللَّهِ الْمَتِينَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ. Remember, Adam ﷺ has come and his children come from heaven. Now they're trying to go back to the same place. How do you do that? هُوَ حَبْلُ اللَّهِ الْمَتِينَ. It is Allah's very strong rope that was being put down, that was really put for human beings to cling on to it and get back. And about this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this rope will never crack. This rope will never be broken. In Surah Al-Kahf, قَيِّمًا لِيُنذِرَ بَأْسًا شَدِيدًا. The Quran has been described, this guidance has been described as something that is very, very strong, that does not bend when the wind is very high. When the tide is completely taking people away, if you cling on to this rope of Allah, it will take you back. It has the ability to take you back. So, eventually, understanding this entire history of creation and how Adam as-salam was given Jannah, he comes to this world, he's given guidance, his children will continue to receive guidance till the point of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how this Quran is going to really take you back. And in this context, if you look at this ayah, this is the ayah that I recited to you first in the beginning, which basically says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. So the same ayat that talks about Ramadan, that passage ends in this ayah. And when my servants, when my slaves, O Muhammad, ask you about me, what you should do, what you should say, فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ, that I am so near them. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. That I respond to the call of the caller. So, in essence, the door and the way back to Jannah has been kept open for all of mankind. All you have to do, people may think that they have messed up, there is no hope. But Adam alayhi salam understood this wisdom of Allah, that yes, I have made a mistake, and yes, I have lost my environment, I have been sent down to this earth, but I have the hope to be able to go back. Similarly, brothers and sisters, the message of the month of Ramadan, this is the time where we celebrate this month as an ultimate celebration of the fulfillment of Allah's promise. Allah has promised us that there will be a way for us to get back to Jannah. And He has, in this month, that promise was fulfilled by sending down the book of guidance, which is the Quran. So as we approach the final stretch, the second part of the month of Ramadan, and the nights of power, Laylatul Qadr, that is really around the corner, brothers and sisters, what is our role? What should we be thinking? The message of hope, which was delivered to our father, Adam alayhi salam, was extended to humanity. We have a chance, always, no matter how bad I think I have been. You know, people may think of me much better than I am, or much worse than I am. But only Allah knows. And in this ayah, فَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. There was no pre-qualification. All that you had to do is فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي. At least try to respond back to Allah. Ask Allah. Plead to Allah. Cry in front of Allah. Speak to Him in your language. You don't have to know the Arabic language. You can talk to Allah. You know how people think sometimes, for example, if I'm driving a car and I'm thinking I'm talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, people may look at me and say, this guy's crazy, what is he doing? If you feel awkward about that, then there's something in your heart that makes you feel that Allah doesn't exist. He is there, everywhere, anywhere. I can reach Him anytime. The entire notion of Allah being connected to me. He says, أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. All you have to do, you and me have to do, is ask Him. And brothers and sisters, the dua, the conversation with Allah, if you have an issue with someone, what do you have to do? We say, if you have a problem, if you have your relationship is being bad with somebody, all you have to do is what? Go and talk to that person. Think of the same scenario in us, in this situation. Talk to Allah. Ask for your forgiveness. He is there for you, and He has an open door policy. No matter how messed up somebody is, no matter how much sins you have done, if you turn back to Allah, He is there. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. All we have to do is turn to Him. Ask Him. Plead for forgiveness. And there is no better time. The coming days. The next 14, 15 days are really the epitome of this opportunity in terms of what Allah opens the doors in so many wide ways that you will have no idea. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this Ramadan one of the most beautiful Ramadans in our lives. We ask Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to really open up to Him and ask Him in the middle of the night, in the darkness of the night, when no one is watching. Ask Him for anything that we want. Ask Him for everything that we want. Ask Him for our hidayah of our children, and the beautiful du'as of Prophet ﷺ that has taught us. We should all try to really look up those du'as and ask in any language. It doesn't really matter. And we hope and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive us and save us from the fire of hell in this month. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum. الحمد لله الواحد الأحد الفرد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين ودمر الشرك والمشركين ودمر أعداءك أعداء الدين. عباد الله، إن الله أمركم بأمر بدأ فيه بنفسه وثنى بملائكته وقدسه حيث قال إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم وآمنوا به يدافع عنكم وأقيموا الصلاة.